Go ahead and go get started. I'll ask you to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In order to avoid unnecessary fines for Oregon OSHA for violating the Oregon governor's mask mandate, I'd like to note that there are signs requesting people to wear a mask at the entrance of the building. Masks are available for use at the back of the room and is an audible reminder that the mandate is outlined in OSHA Workplace Advisory Memo 8.13.21. At this time, roll call, please, Julie.
Mayor Mahler.
Present.
Councilor Gerson.
Present.
Councilor Trask.
Present.
Councilor Gorley.
Present.
Councilor Coleman.
Present.
Councilor Sanchez.
Here.
Councilor Richards.
Present.
Let the record show all 7 present, no absent. And at this time, do you want to go ahead and do the video recording, Legia? Thank you, Legia. At this time, consent agenda.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Councilor Richards.
Yes.
Councilor Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilor Coleman.
Yes.
Councilor Gorley.
Yes.
Councilor Trask.
Yes.
Councilor Gerson.
Yes.
Mayor Mahler.
Yes. Let the record show 7 ayes with no nays, approval of the consent agenda. At this time, on recognitions of visitor and hearing petitions, we have a newest of officer here, and I'd like to take it over, Ray.
Yes, this is Ben Henniger. He is our newest hire, and we are super. Can you hear me now? This is Ben Penniger. He is our newest hire here at the Sweet Police Department, and we are super excited to have him on. Ben comes to us from, he was born and raised in Kentucky, went to school at Western Kentucky University, ended up makes way out here to Oregon, and after landing in Oregon, decided that he wanted to be in law enforcement. So we're super thankful that he chose us and excited for him to start working with us. So
How you doing, Ben?
Good, how are you?
Ray Towery, pleasure to have you coming on board with us. We're excited and definitely appreciate you putting yourself out there for us in our community. If you want to grab a hold of that, we're going to go ahead and swear you in. So if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Ben Pinniger,
I, Ben Penniger,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Oregon,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Oregon,
the laws and ordinances of the City of Sweet Home,
the laws and the ordinances of the City of Sweet Home,
and the rules and regulations of the Sweet Home Police Department.
and the rules and regulations of the Sweet Home Police Department,
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office to which I have been appointed,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office to which I have been appointed
in and for the City of Sweet Home,
in and for the City of Sweet Home,
according to law and to the best of my ability.
according to law and the best of my ability.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Well, Officer Pinniger, welcome aboard and welcome to our beautiful community and welcome your family too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And be safe.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on to any recognition of hearing of petitions. Anybody like to come forth, be heard before council? Good evening, Mr. Adams.
Vince Adams, 809 Mountain View Road, Sweet Home.
Thanks, guys.
Good evening. I'm here for two reasons. First reason is I'd like to just move it down.
Go in here a
Oh,
little
okay.
better.
I'm not used to this. So anyway, I'm here for two reasons. The first reason is I want to thank Chief Lynn and CSO Sean for giving me the opportunity to meet with them and get a little bit more educated on the homeless situation that we're dealing with. I still don't like it, but I understand a little better of where it's going and how it's going to get there. And I've perused through some of the literature, and I have some things that, as a committee forms for putting the rules and things together for our little deal, I'm willing to put myself out there for that and help go over that because I have some notes that I would like to go over with the right people. With that being said, the other issue I had, and I don't see Chief here, it's a traffic issue. It's a safety issue. I was going up, I can't remember what street now it was, Elm, here recently. And as I was headed west on Elm, a car was coming towards me. All of a sudden it's in my lane and then it's parking against the curb facing the wrong direction, which caused me a certain amount of consternation because I did have to slow down and almost stop because he cut across in front of me. So what I've noticed and seen in recent months is more of this parking in the wrong direction. I think it's an act of laziness because the driver's door is closer to the house and people just want to park that way and are getting away with it. I don't know what the exact ordinance is on that, but I'm pretty sure there's something that concerns that. And I would like to see that be enforced by a warning to those as our officers are driving around town and spot these. And then if it's a repeat offender, of course, raise the stakes on it. But I do consider it a safety issue. And I'd like to see that get addressed.
I have to agree with you, Mr. Adams. We're getting a little carried away with our parking in our community. Years ago, we used to enforce it. It was being enforced. We've just kind of got, I don't want to say lazy, but we've just got lackadaisical in our procedures and just letting it happen. And you're right, it's getting out of hand. I've noticed that up and down the street. So, Mr. Towery, when Chief gets back, he might just, or there you go. I'm sorry. He's representing our.
I think it's an easy fix as our officers are driving through town, and they're up in the avenues and the side streets and stuff like that. When they observe that, just if, if they're not on a call, they can stop and address that. That'd be great. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming this evening, and we appreciate everything you said. Anybody else would like to come forth to be heard? Okay. We'll now move on to old business. RCA, Intergovernmental Agreement for ODOT US 20/OR 228 ADA curb ramp project and presentation of current ODOT projects.
So this begins on page 41 of your agenda. Excuse me,
Page 7.
page 7 of your agenda. This is a follow-up to the discussion that you held 2 weeks ago with the ODOT representatives. This is the curb ramp project, which also includes the crossing at 22nd Avenue as part of the project as well. This is the IGA that makes that happen.
Any questions of council?
Mr. Mayor, I noticed that they're already out there putting up stakes, getting ready for those ADA ramps.
Any other questions, council?
Mr. Mayor, I had one question, and it was mentioned last meeting that there will be some easements or some that the ODOT will need to obtain. And I saw a comment on Facebook about it. I just was curious if they could just review what those easements entail. And I probably should have asked that earlier so they could have been prepared for that. I know we have maps. I just was curious if those maps cover all of what we have, what's going to be addressed. So
I believe it's all within current easements and right-of-way. I don't,
I
for
believe
this
there-
project.
Actually, I believe there are some portions of it where on a corner there might be a little bit extra, and Brennan at ODOT could probably describe that a little bit better than I.
I think there was also a question about, I think, 9th Avenue down there in town too.
Actually, I believe Brennan is on here with us to answer any questions you might have, so we can just
Okay.
turn it over to him, I think.
Good evening. Oh, I'm getting an echo here. Here, let's. NB, can you hear me?
There we go.
Yeah, I apologize for the echo there. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and I appreciate the question regarding the easements. We've got many of the ramps going through town. We're going to be purchasing permanent right-of-way and then also temporary easements. The permanent right-of-way a lot of times is just cutting the corner so that we're able to build the ramps that we need to, within the current, we'll say, footprint without infringing on the roadway itself. And then a lot of times the temporary easements are strictly used for a specific duration, meaning 6 months to a year is what we typically would do. And those are used strictly for construction of the ramps, and then after construction, then that would be turned back over to the property owner. So during that entire time, they retain the rights to it. We're essentially just purchasing the ability to be there temporarily. So does that answer your question?
I believe it does. Thank you. I just wanted that reviewed for everybody to hear it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Any other questions? Okay, council directive.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the proposed intergovernmental agreement 34892 with ODOT as presented and authorize the city manager to sign it.
I second that.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley.
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Mayor Mahler,
Yes.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Let the record show 7 ayes with no nays. Approval of the RCA. Next up, request for council action intergovernmental agreement for ODOT US 20 53rd through 60th Avenue sidewalk project.
Again, a follow-up to your last meeting's discussion. Brennan's here if you have questions. And then that we'll turn over to Brennan or Blair if you have questions.
I believe Christine may be on the line.
Christine?
She's the head from ODOT for this project.
Any questions of Christine? Or can you hear us, Christine?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, any questions? Welcome.
Thanks.
When are you projecting to start this project? Just out of curiosity.
So the tree clearing will start in advance. So we expect to get a contract out soon once all this is approved. And tree clearing would happen within the fall and spring.
Okay.
And then
Go ahead.
sorry. And then actual construction, bidlet is the 6th of January. And usually notice to proceed is about 30 days, 45 days after that.
Okay. And you project what time does completion?
October 15th.
Okay. Any questions, council? Council directive.
Christine, Mayor, if I may, Christine, in your email, you mentioned a possibility of a concurrence with for the city to be able to concur with the selection of the contractor, I believe, or is that correct?
To concur that once the bid is awarded, so we have our bids come in, and if the bid was over the estimate, we could ask the city, we could put that in the IGA that we would ask the city before awarding the contract.
Okay, and so I think that based on previous conversations with Councilor Gerson, that might be a desirable addition to the contract. And so if that's okay with ODOT, I would ask the council to include that in their motion to authorize the city manager to sign an amended document that would include that provision where if ODOT is moving forward with a contractor at a price above the engineer's estimate.
And I should be clear,
the
the STIP amount would probably be the best language, because the engineer's estimate's going to wiggle based on price, so we'll just do the standard STIP amount.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, so in regards to that, Christine, then who pays the extra amount?
So overages are paid for by the local agency.
That change to the contract would give us the ability to weigh in before construction starts. If a bid comes in higher than the engineer's estimate, that change in the contract would allow us to have a say, rather than the current one that you have in front of you states that if it's up to 10% over the estimate, ODOT can go ahead and select the vendor. And so we wouldn't have any, the way it's written right now, we wouldn't have any control. If we make this change, we would at least be able to weigh in at that point and say, no, it's way too high. We can't go forward.
Okay.
So you can cancel.
Yes, because Mr. Mayor, I have a very difficult time putting the city in a bind for money we don't know what it's going to be like. And the cost of this project has increased. The scope has decreased and the price has increased. So I'm a little iffy about this.
I can only say from the staff perspective that it's still, when it comes to the costs of putting in a sidewalk, what the city is getting out of it is still better in partnership with ODOT than it would be if we tried to pay for it on our own.
Any other questions?
I have
So, Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councilor Gerson. If it ends up being, we have to pay as much as we're supposed to pay right now at $299,000. I mean, can we shut that completely down?
If with the change that we're talking about, if the bids come back and it's significantly over the, if it's over the engineer's estimate, then the ODOT would be seeking the city's concurrence with that bid. So in other words, we'd have an opportunity to review it and see that, okay, this is way higher than we expected, way higher than the engineer's estimate, and we'd be paying for it. So that change would basically give us an out that we'd be able to say, yeah, let's put the brakes on this.
Well, so if that was the case, do we have the ability to cut the thing back instead of going under the railroad trestle and stopping there and not going to 60th Avenue? Or is that something that's not, if we can't do it, does it shut the whole thing down?
So you're saying that if we don't concur with the bid and don't want to move forward with the higher price, can, instead of just killing the whole project, can we scale it back?
Yes.
That, my understanding is that would probably require a revised IGA. And Christine, if you could, your take on that?
So I think, I mean, I would have to take this back to people that actually make the decision, but I think that we would be willing to work with a scope that could be afforded. And so what that looked like at the time of bid, that may be a potential option, but we could discuss that too.
Well,
it would mean a revised IGA for sure.
Yeah, my concern would be not being able to have that money to add on to 10% or whatever it is. If it's $500,000 more, I don't know where we would get the money to do that. Maybe we can, but that would be a big concern for me, especially the way things are right now. So,
Well, this started 10 years ago, not 2012. So
yeah,
I don't know, starting back over would be worth it.
yeah, put another 10 years on there. What do you think? No. Thank you. Thank you, by the way.
Any other questions?
This is Brennan. May I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was looking at the project, Christine's project, a little bit further this morning. We were going back or emailing back and forth, and I was looking at the current engineer's estimate, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I compared that and then added 10% as if the bids came in 10% over, and we had an additional 50,000 on top of that as a buffer until we hit the existing STIP amount. And so there is a little bit of a buffer. Granted, with the current bidding market, we don't know where we're going to end up. But from a timing perspective, we're heading into a really good seasonal bidding time where the bids are typically lower, and so we'll have the best opportunity to have better bids at this time. And so even though the bids may come in above the engineer's estimate, we do have a little bit of wiggle room from where it sits right now.
Microphone.
Yeah, thank you.
From what you guys said, it's the stipulated amount that's going to show up in the documents, right?
The STIP is in the statewide transportation plan.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not the engineer's estimate, it's the stipulated amount.
Well, the engineer's estimate is in the agreement.
Right, but you were saying engineers it's going to click off of, and she was saying it's going to be the stipulated amount.
For the overage.
For the overage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The city's concurrence in the bid comes in based on, or at least the way it's written now, was based on the engineer's estimate.
Okay.
The amendment would be based on the STIP.
Okay.
Is what, Christine, that's what you were saying?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yes. Brennan's nodding, so yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, I too feel a great frustration about how long it's taken and how the scope has changed over time. But as we move forward as a community, I can visualize this and the benefit that it will be to our community. So I think even though it's different than what we had originally done, that it's still a worthy project, given the recommendation of the amendment. And so with that, I would like to move that we approve the proposed intergovernmental aid agreement with ODOT as proposed and authorize the city manager to sign it as recommended to be amended.
I'll second that.
Motion and second on the table. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Let the record show 7 ayes with no nays. Approval of this RCA. Thank you, Christine and Brendan, for all you do. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Moving on to new business. RCA resolution number 25 for 2021. Library Advisory Board recommendations to temporary waive late book fees.
This begins on page 41 of your packet, and I'll allow Megan to take it from there.
So at the last Library Advisory Board meeting, we had a discussion about library fines. This is just the overdue fines for when library materials are late. Currently, they're 15 cents a day. Our discussion led to the fact that many libraries across the country are dropping these fines currently. They're seeing that the people are actually returning more books without fines, that fines tend to harm those that can least afford them. So the board is proposing to waive the fees for 3 months and see how it goes, kind of a holiday break. So from November 1st to the end of January. Are there any questions about anything?
Any questions, counselors?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I don't have a question, but I think it's a wonderful idea. When my kids were small, I would check out books from the library and I would often not have time to return them on time. And so the late fees would keep us from being able to go and check out more books. And one time they had a canned food drive to pay for the library fines. And so I was able to take canned food in and my kids were able to check books back out. So I think it's a really good idea to reduce fines.
I also want to say thank you. I checked out a book not too long ago and had a huge fine. So I got that in though. I got that in. But thank you. It's a good thing. The less fines, the better.
Yeah.
Council directive.
I got one.
Okay,
So
good, Dave.
would it be, I'm okay for the 3-month thing. I absolutely am. But would it be possibly better to just lower those fees for certain, or would that be an option you would consider?
It could be an option. From my understanding, about 2 years ago, they raised them from 10 cents to 15 cents. Most libraries are simply eliminating rather than lowering. It could be an option that the board could discuss after the 3 months as well.
Do you have a figure of what you make, how much money we make on a yearly basis? Just give me a rough number. I don't need it.
It's from the 2 months I've been here, we were averaging $50 a month that we're taking in.
Okay, that's all I need. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, so Megan, $50 a month pays for maybe 3 books, right?
About one nonfiction book.
Yeah, right. So, yeah. So I'm in favor of this. Actually, I would think to eliminate it permanently, but I'll go with the 3 months.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Council directive.
So, Mr. Mayor, I move that we eliminate the fines for the library late fees for 3 months.
I second that.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Mayor Mahler,
Yes.
Counselor Richards,
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley.
Yes.
Let the record show 7 ayes and no nays approval of the late book fees being waived for 3 months. And the RCA approved. RCA Resolution number 26 for 2021, resolution adopting year-end supplemental budget for 2021.
It begins on page 44. This is a kind of some cleanup of the budget for the previous year, and I will turn that over to Brandon.
Thank you. We see these once a year, right at the end of the year as we get ready for our audit. But what we have is some adjustments that are necessary in the internal service fund. I want to start out with none of these adjustments will add expenditure authority to the fund. So all of these adjustments are using contingency funds to offset. So it really is a net neutral adjustment, but is necessary per local budget law. And the first section is the internal service fund non-departmental personnel expenditures. We're required to break out for all non-departmental groups, both personnel and materials and service. So that's why we're doing this as individual groups instead of just saying executive department or finance department, which you'll see down the list here in a minute. We had some employee overages as far as we had some extra hours necessary for our communications person. And so we're asking for an adjustment of $6,000 for the salary line. Additionally, and then there's some other expenditures related to retirement and tax payments that are associated with that. The major change in that section is the request for $15,300, which covers the change in benefits for an individual in the non-departmental section. And again, all of that would be covered with contingency funds under this plan or this proposal. On the materials and service side, a separate budget group in your budget authorization each year. We are requesting $1,280 to be adjusted for that section to account for Adobe software, an Adobe software license, which allowed the communications specialist to do her job appropriately. Additionally, so now we'll move on to the executive department. The executive department had some overages in both personnel costs related to COLAs approved for 2021 and accrual cash outs. As part of our budget process, what we do, if you'll remember, is we budget 2% each year of total personnel expenditures to cover personnel changes, whether that be unanticipated salary increases, benefit changes, cash outs of comp time or vacation time congruent with city policy. So that's what we're requesting here in the executive department, as well as there was some additional expenditures in the training and travel line for human resource training for some of our staff. On the finance side, we have one adjustment. It's the ClearGov budget and transparency software. That software we entered into agreement after the budget process had already begun last year, so it wasn't in our 2021 fiscal year budget. So we're asking for that adjustment there. That is all the adjustments that I have in this year-end wrap-up, and certainly happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions of council?
Mr. Mayor, if I might, there was a question online, 15,000, what was the 15,300 for? During the year, each employees during open enrollment or during certain circumstances considered life events are allowed to change their benefit packages. So that's what happened in this case is we had a benefit change in the non-departmental personnel expenditure lines that we need to cover somehow because it was a contractual obligation.
Okay. Any questions of councilors? Council directive.
So, Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 26 for 2021.
I second that.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Gorley,
Aye.
Counselor Trask,
Aye.
Counselor Gerson,
Aye.
Mayor Mahler,
Aye.
Counselor Richards,
Aye.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman.
I need to recuse myself as I have a conflict of interest in this.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and let us know why?
A relative who would benefit from this.
Okay, just need to for the record. So I have 6 ayes and 1 abstain, approval of the RCA, resolution number 26 for 2021. Discussion only, Rural Development Initiative Youth Leadership Development Program.
This is page 49 of your, excuse me, 49 of your packet. If you recall, a little over a year ago, we embarked upon a partnership with the Rural Development Initiative for a youth leadership program. The program was met with several challenges throughout COVID and kids being in school, not being in school. We were attempting to kind of wrap that into our YAC program. That program kind of bullied its way through to get completed, but it was met with a lot of difficulties and just wasn't able to go as smoothly as we hoped because of kids being quarantined, no school, those kinds of things in order to participate. As they've gone through the program, they finished the program after the budget cycle. The original idea with RDI to do this leadership program, and if you'll recall, the Rural Development, this is actually taken from the Ford Family Foundation's leadership program and adapted to youth. So this is a program actually several of our staff have gone through over the past few years. There's been regional leadership groups that have gone through and graduated, and then they do a regional project for the community. The idea was initially that RDI comes in and they teach people how to teach and run the program. We just weren't able to do that this year. And so we've asked that RDI, it's been requested that they come back and run the program again so we can actually have a smooth running program and actually teach people to teach the program. During the budget process, we just didn't have that information, and I didn't understand that we were going to have RDI come back. So I didn't include enough in the budget for RDI to be involved again. RDI, because of the circumstances, has agreed to cut their fee. They cut about $15,000 off of their normal fee to help us make this work. But we still don't have it in the budget. So we're asking the council for expenditure authority to go ahead and enter that agreement. RDI is actively searching for grant funds to cover as much of this as possible. And whatever we get in grant funds, then we will not be obviously held to pay. But as of right now, the cost would be $20,000 without any additional grant funding to help pay for it. So we're asking the council to approve the expenditure at this point.
There wasn't an RCA, it was discussion only, so you.
Yeah, and if I might, so what we're looking for, we are going to attempt to utilize our existing expenditure authority to make this happen throughout the year.
Okay.
What we're looking for is kind of a council consensus more so to gain an understanding of, is this something that if we had to come back in 6 months or so, because we weren't able to reduce enough expenditures to fit this into our existing budget, is this something that you want to support? So we don't necessarily need an action per se, but kind of more of a council consensus on, do you want us to move forward with this? And if necessary, could we come back if we had to? We're going to try not to.
First, any questions of councilors?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I was curious, how many youth has this helped so far, or does it foresee helping?
I think we had 16 go through the program last year.
Right.
I think there were 16 youth that went through the program and in some facet, form, shape as they could.
Is that number intended to go up this year? Because
I think the group's very hopeful for that. Yeah, they're organizing recruitments right as we speak and reaching out to get kids to become involved.
So I have a question. So how is this different, what they're teaching from what the leadership program at the high school is already teaching? Because the YAC is very different, but we don't want to double up on what somebody else is already doing.
I honestly couldn't give you that exact information. What I will share with you is I believe they're targeting younger kids at this point in the junior high arena to get them more involved into programs.
Wasn't there even some sixth graders this last time?
Yeah, we've
sixth through ninth graders.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty good program, but
it's a good program. It's been utilized around the state in different areas. Communities have had a lot of success and been very, very happy with it.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, the director was very impressed. All the trainers were very impressed with our students because they didn't water down this program at all. They used the adult program, and the kids responded to it very, very well. So they were very impressed with that.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, just to answer a previous question. So the memo highlights that 13 students, Sweet Home students, successfully completed the program previously, and they're aiming for 25 in this round of in this round of the program.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, can you or somebody explain to me what this program offers in the form of leadership opportunities? Training, what does that look like?
Well, so the criteria teaches them how to mobilize assets within the community to complete community-oriented projects. I think that's the shortest, best way I can explain it. For instance, the group last year ended up doing a project, I believe, at Ashbrook Park. Was it a bench? I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. Cleanup and a bench, or
there was a quite a bit of cleanup in the park, and I believe there was some replacement of benches and assistance with the landscaping.
Yeah. So they go through and they do the whole project. So they as a group mobilize people to help them. They go out and seek sponsorships. They try to involve community stakeholders so that it's a community-wide project as much as possible. And then they actually go out and do the work and do the project.
So, Mr. Mayor, I have a question. So, this is $20,000 that we didn't budget for.
Correct.
And now we're at least half a way through our fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
And is that cost me the same next year? Is it going to be $20,000 out of our budget next year, or is this half of the cost? I'm not following exactly how that is. It the same amount that's going to cost next year? Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't believe so. I believe their hope is this year. Part of the whole idea is to create a program which is self-replicating every year.
Okay.
So the idea is to teach people to then come back and lead the program.
Okay.
So the idea is you get these kids in, there's some adult mentorship, and then the kids keep coming in and they keep helping with the projects year after year. So and then they bring new kids in. So you're kind of cycling kids through. So that's my understanding. As I understand it now, this would not be the cost for next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I also got because Councilor Gerson invited me to their final ceremony thing, and what I got out of that too was that it was a confidence builder for a lot of the younger generation that are kind of in their little shell and don't know how to come out of that shell. I don't know how to word it best than that, but it seemed like it was a pretty good confidence builder for what they got accomplished and got people to come together. And it seemed like a pretty good program, but. Councilor Gerson, what was your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a good program, and the parents were very impressed. The parents liked the program. I've heard from them, because it offers the kids a chance to get involved in the community, rather than just school, So, and frankly, developing leadership in our youth is really important because some of us are getting really tired. So, we kind of need our young people involved here. So that's sort of my outlook on it.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, what are you getting at there? My concern, not a concern. What I would like to see from the YAC people and possibly these folks is be here and see what we're doing. And that hasn't always been really successful. But it would be nice if the YAC people and some of these folks would come and.
We're working on it.
Yes, and I think that would be I'm okay with this. I really am. And so, because I think it is good for our kids. So anyway.
Any other questions? Okay. I'll go ahead and just round the table, just a consensus. Yeah. Councilor Sanchez.
I'm for helping our youth whatever way we can, so I love this.
Mr. Mayor, does this have to be a roll call?
It's not a roll call. I just gotta get a consensus.
We are hopeful and we think that we can find cost savings in this fund to cover this. So we think we can cut a little here, trim a little there, and find this money. But if we can't, we want consensus from you so that if we do have to come back, you're willing to give that expenditure authority as a budget adjustment. We're hopeful we won't have to.
Councilor Corley, you can afford it.
Yeah, I think this is a great program.
Yeah, we got the consensus.
Yes.
The more young people in politics, the better. So yes.
Well, I don't know about that. Yes.
So you got your consensus. Fiscal 2022 first quarter financial update. Brandon.
Yeah, here's Brandon.
Go, Brandon. I have to say it.
It won't be the last time. I'm sure that it is going to stick around. I now understand all of the feelings that the Karens of the world have in their social media. So, with that said, we successfully completed 25% or a quarter of our fiscal year. We are not quite halfway yet. But in your packets is kind of a fiscal Q1 update. Overall, I want to say things look very healthy. The city as a whole is in a good financial position, which pleases me greatly. The first section in your memo talks about investments. You haven't seen this section before because this is a relatively new section. What I want to highlight is it is not as beneficial right now for any organization really to keep a hold of cash. Interest rates are way down. We received word last week that the major fund that we keep a majority of our cash in, the local government investment pool, is actually going to once again revise the rate downward, down to 0.4%, which is pennies on the dollar that we earn. We used to see interest earnings in the kind of low 20s to mid 20,000 range a month, and now we're lucky if we see $6,500 in interest earnings each month. So, and our cash has gone up. So we don't earn a lot of money anymore on our bank holdings. Alternatively, we're also not pulling a lot out of investments right now based on the status of the market. A lot of our stuff is tied up in bonds, which meets the requirements that the state of Oregon have set related to cash and securities for municipalities. And we don't earn a lot on that either until we see kind of a market correction in interest rates nationwide. So this just kind of gives you an update on where we get the best bang for our buck, so to speak. But our investments are kind of dragging at this point. With that sad piece of news out of the way, I'll move on to property taxes. So property taxes, sure I'm supposed to be running a PowerPoint for you too. Here we go. Property tax revenue is up. And it's not a lot up. So on the screen, the green indicates what we had budgeted for the fiscal year. And based on the county's tax salary, or not salary, they call them SAL reports. But based on the tax reports from the county, we anticipate that we will fall slightly above what we had budgeted. Specifically, we anticipate about $60,000 extra dollars in the police department from the local option levy for the police department, and about $10,000 extra dollars on the library side. For the general fund, the current forecast says we will be short $800, but I anticipate that that will kind of wipe itself out as we go through the year. So we are relatively close to what we had budgeted. Driving some of that increase is valuation increases across the city. We anticipated a 3% assessed value increase. We're actually seeing 4% according to county numbers. And additionally, we had budgeted 13% in compression rates for the two levies, and actually that compression is showing at 11.5 this year. So good news all around. Certainly close on our budget estimates, which is always great news, but we like to see that things aren't going down. So far for the year, we're projecting an extra 1.27% above what we had initially budgeted for property taxes. Service charges, the greatest swing, I guess, of this entire budget report thus far. What we are seeing is a significant increase in SDC revenue. If you remember, council took action last fiscal year, but this calendar year on increasing SDCs and also adding a parks SDC, a transportation SDC, and a stormwater SDC, system development charge. We didn't budget for those three new ones because we didn't really have a basis or an idea of what we would be generating in those. We don't have current projects to be spending that cash on anyways. So that's a lot of what's driving the change in the graph. Sorry, also in front of you. From the green budgeted fees up to that Q1 projected in the red. So so that at this point, the forecast is showing a 94.9% increase by the time we get to June 30. So again, a lot of that being in SDCs.
Excuse me, Brandon, excuse me, may I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
So then when we go into the budget season, we'll start dealing with this SDC money in the storm and wastewater and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes, for projects that we are legally allowed to spend it on, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Utility revenue, we are relatively close as far as our estimate. Utility revenues are up 3.1% for this fiscal year compared to the same period last year. It was originally budgeted at 5.8 million. We expect 6 million as of today. And again, that can change as we go through the next 3 quarters. So I don't anticipate any major swing in either direction as far as utility revenue is concerned. The only fee increase that we saw on the utility revenue side this year was the $2 stormwater increase that the council approved. Water and wastewater rates remained the same. Gas taxes. We are seeing an increase in gas tax revenue, which is great news. Driving that is a contribution of about $140,000 from the Oregon Department of Transportation. This money came from the CARES Act at the federal government level. ODOT received a contribution that then finally at the end of June decided they were going to spread amongst the municipalities in Oregon. Sweet Home's portion of that was $140,000. So it has gone into this fiscal year. It is part of the reason that this graph is up. We don't anticipate major changes in the overall ODOT revenue that we were slated to be given. Just this extra $140,000 is what's driving the increase. Other revenues, a lot of this is grants and what is literally termed as miscellaneous revenues. The major swing here is due to the timing of the wastewater treatment plant. So we had budgeted $5.3 million in spending for the wastewater treatment plant related to construction. We don't anticipate that we will begin construction before this current fiscal year is out. That isn't necessarily a problem for us, given the time frame that we have to spend the state's allocation. However, it just means that we won't hit our budgeted amount for this fiscal year. So I've revised the projection for the fiscal year to be lower, based on removing some of that $5 million. Right now, I believe the current project status has us kind of 6 to 12 months out from our original plan, which would put us in construction mode in kind of winter 2022 or the first part of 2023. Personnel expenditures, it is the largest overall expenditure as far as the city is concerned from a budget standpoint. The first quarter expenditures are up 14.9%. All of that primarily is due to the COVID premiums that were approved as part of the ARPA or American Rescue Plan Act monies. That's something that the council acted on in August. So that's the major reason for the change in personnel costs compared to our original budget. We do have a lot of vacancy savings, so I expect that personnel will kind of level out throughout the year, but we'll see where things land. Lastly, materials and service and capital outlay. You'll remember last year there was a spending freeze during the first quarter of 2021. That is not the case for 2022, and department heads are certainly enjoying that lack of spending freeze. So this year in the first quarter, spending is up 11%. However, based on our current project status, where we anticipate being by the end of the year, I don't anticipate a major over expenditure in materials and service and capital outlay. In fact, I project that we will actually spend less than we had initially budgeted, again, primarily due to the wastewater treatment plant. So revenues are up, not high, but revenues are up. Expenses are down for the course of the year. We're sitting in a good spot.
So, Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Brandon, where does this show the marijuana money?
The marijuana money is part of the other revenues section. Marijuana revenue is down right now compared to where it has been the last 2 to 3 fiscal years. The novelty wore off, I guess. I don't know exactly how to explain it other than to say we are seeing less revenue come in from marijuana taxes.
Well, that's because the state is taking more.
The state is taking more, yes. That just recently started, though, so we are seeing less even before the state started taking additional monies.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Brandon, did we not hear once that we were able to raise that from, what do we make, 3% now or something like that? And it's not some ridiculous number, but so that's probably not true.
If I remember correctly, and Robert may have to back me up on this, but the original, the state, I believe, had locked in, if cities were going to do it, they had to do it before the state had passed their bill. And so I believe we are locked in at the 3% rate that we currently have, and we can't change that. I would have to verify if we actually do have the capacity to change, but yeah, I don't. So far, the state hasn't made any action that would allow us to change that. There is conversation at the league, within the League of Oregon Cities, that will be a focus for them in the upcoming sessions, because the state is taking additional monies from what was originally allotted to revenue sharing, that they will allow municipalities to make changes to their rates if the citizenry allows for that.
I have one more question. So 94045, it says Jacobs Engineering for 92. Is that the last one?
Yes, that should be the last one.
Thank God. Yeah.
If for those of you who aren't aren't there yet, Councilor Trask is referring to my finance report toward the end of your packet. Yes, that should be the last check for Jacobs that we are aware of at this time.
Yeah, and one more thing. So we're short. This be your answer. We're short on our patrol right now. How many are we down? Okay, so we're down 3, so we're not spending that money on those 3 people, and that
Yes.
stays in their budget.
It does. I would add real fast that not spending the money on those 3 people does. We still have to have officers on the road, so we will see higher overtime costs.
Yes, I get that.
Okay. But yes, the money stays in the police department fund for them for it to be reappropriated by the budget committee and the council next fiscal
Well,
year.
I thought I could be mistaken, but I think didn't Jeff say that the new captain was going to take care of all of that? That's what I heard.
The new captain's still working nights sometimes, so
That's all.
he is handling a lot, I'm sure.
Any other questions? Is that it, Brandon?
That's all I have.
Thanks, Brandon. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Moving on now, we have an RCA for amended beekeeping ordinance. Council directive, if you want to move this forward. Or questions?
So, Mr. Mayor, I move we. Oh.
You must really like this bee there, Lily. Yeah. So I have one motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Mayor Mahler,
Yes.
Counselor Richards,
Aye.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley.
Yes.
7 ayes, no nays. Approval to move this forward for first reading this evening. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just continue. At least 10 feet beyond the hives in each direction separates them from neighboring properties. 4, bees must have access to a constant source of water within 15 feet of each hive at all times during the months of March through October. 5, hives must be well maintained so as not to create a nuisance. 6, any resident or property owner keeping bees on their property must notify all neighbors within 50 feet of the hives. Passed by the council and approved by the mayor this blank day of blank 2021. Signed, Mayor, attest, City Manager, ex officio, City Recorder.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I for some reason, I thought the number was 3. Is that not,
To-
I thought we decided on 3, because now 5, they have to go to the state. Is that correct?
If you have 5 or more, you do need to register with the state.
Okay.
Correct. The feedback that we had after when we talked about this over the summer was to draft a amended ordinance, and I believe this was the direction was to do one that was with the experts that we had participating agreed with, and I also based this on the League of Cities model ordinance on beekeeping. So
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay. Council directive of moving this forward for second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, stand by roll call, please.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Mayor Mahler,
Yes.
Counselor Richards,
Aye.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Trapp.
Yes.
7 ayes, no nays. Moving forward for second and reading on November 9th by title only. We don't have anything on second reading, nothing on third reading. Reports of committees, anything for the committees?
Mr. Mayor, we had a admin and finance meeting yesterday. We found another fellow that wants to be on the budget committee. He's in the audience as we speak. We also have another one for the other one, Planning Commission. And we have another one to interview probably shortly, so we can get that taken care of. And also we talked about changing some council rules that we'll be bringing to you soon.
Very good. Any other committee reports? Moving on to mayor's report. I think all the councilors got the doodle report or doodle, whatever the heck you want to call it. Still want to have a meeting with the commissioners to discuss the mill property. Hey, and I'm still Mr. Towery's thunder about the meeting today, so I'll let you cover that. But I think it was a positive one. I think we're moving forward, at least some progression, but we need to narrow it down on what day and get back to the commissioners and sit down and have a discussion with them and see if we can't progress this a little further. Other as a reminder, if all the counselors didn't get anything on their paperwork, we have an evaluation for our city manager. Do you want to hold a special meeting regarding this, or just us fill this out?
No, I was going to go through that with everybody
Okay, I'll
tonight.
just
Yeah.
let you cover that.
Okay.
And then last but least, just want to recommend everybody be safe this weekend, the Halloween coming up, and I know our police department will be out and be protecting our little ones. Everybody just needs to be safe. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, if I may too, it's been, it was nice to have us all here today. It's a lot better situation than having Zooms and all that. So I appreciate you guys being here.
Yes, thank you. City manager's report.
Yeah, for your reading pleasure. First thing I included was an article recently. Our CSO, Sean Morgan, pointed out to me. This is actually the third article I've seen related to mental health in the state of Oregon. Excuse me. If you'll recall, it was a while back that we declared a state of emergency, and one of the things we declared within our community that was emergent was our mental health issues that we are dealing with. Since that time, we've held what I would refer to as an East Lynn County Mental Health Consortium, where people from different agencies, including the county, a couple different agencies within the county, us, City of Lebanon were represented. And we talked about issues with mental health that's affecting, particularly we were focused on Sweet Home, of course. What we have found is that Lynn County is actually committed to trying to help Sweet Home. But like everywhere else, they have a shortage of staff. They actually have openings they're trying to fill. And one of the things that that Jeff and Sean have been working on is to have a crisis counselor available for Sweet Home The county is committed to that. They have the funding, they have the budget, they just can't find the people. I believe their director, Todd Noble, was on the call. Lynn Benton Health District director was on the call, and he explained, we want to do this. We have the funding, it's budgeted. We just can't find qualified people to fill the positions. And I believe he said they have 16 positions in their department that they cannot fill right now. And of course, that being one of them. That led to discussion about the chronically mental ill people around the state. And that seems to be an issue with the state hospital. And as you can see, that's already been moving through the court system where people are holding the state hospitals accountable for not taking patients. You can read that article and you'll be able to piece everything together. And Mr. Noble expressed extreme frustration with that as well. Because they have people who need to be treated and cannot get that treatment from the state hospital. So, but we are working to get resources for our needs here in Sweet Home, and we'll continue to do so. That group is also in the midst of a doodle poll, so we can hold another meeting and talk about how we can get more resources for mental health here in Sweet Home. Are there any questions? A couple of you look like you were wanting to maybe lean in and ask a question. No?
Any questions?
Okay. I did give you a copy of the performance evaluation. This is a process that we developed 4 years ago. Certainly we can look to make changes to it if you would like to do that. Otherwise, the process is I prepare a self-evaluation that I distribute to you. You get this form as well. Once you review my self-evaluation, you then do an evaluation. You turn that into the mayor. The mayor and the president pro tem tabulate the results from the evaluation forms, compiled to get an overall evaluation average. We then meet in an executive session to discuss them, and then anybody can adjust any of their scores after that meeting. Then we have a final tabulation, and we go over it all. So I leave that for you to go ahead and review. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we can talk about that certainly. So you'll get my self-evaluation in the very near future. Homeless, it's definitely a hot topic. We've been working hard within the community to help with our homeless situation. I think we're all aware, we're moving towards a managed homeless facility. Not a free-for-all, but a well-managed organized facility modeled after what we were able to see in Walla Walla. That's obviously not going to happen in the immediate future. That's still going to be several months away. But what do we do in the meantime? Right now, we've been directing them to behind the old city hall. That's having a negative effect on that community, that neighborhood, and also on the fire district. We've been looking for sites to do a temporary facility. We looked at potentially just fencing it in there behind City Hall. We looked at an area behind the police department, between the police department and the railroad tracks. That was strongly considered. However, there's some issues getting utilities into there. And so instead, we really believe that there's a section, just the north section of the public works yard, that we can add a fence line to, and it would be spacious enough to meet all of our needs. Utilities are there, easily accessible. We've been working with FAC, and we can bring in a temporary construction trailer, so they could use that as an office and a meeting place to help match residents with services that they need. And so we as staff are really favoring that location. It's also right next door to their permanent location. So moving's not going to be a big deal. There's no neighborhoods in there that it can affect. There's not really a business in the direct area that's going to be affected. And so staff, unless there's a major objection, that's what we would like to do through the winter is to create that facility there. I did get a site plan drawn today. I'm happy to distribute that to you tomorrow so you can review it and give me any feedback you may have. We did have a meeting, as the mayor mentioned today, with some interested parties in the old mill property. And we'll continue to meet with those stakeholders and see what we can work out for a presentation to the county. With that, I'll take any questions anybody might have.
Any questions of councilors?
For the homeless, what kind of timeline are we looking at on having, because we're in winter, and so what
Yeah.
are we looking at projected?
Staff is working on as fast as we can. We're trying to find someone with fencing right now is actually a challenge. We've reached out to a couple places and they can't get to us anytime soon. We do believe we may have got a quote from somebody today who might be a little closer to our timeline. The amount was more than we anticipated, but it may be our only option. And then our other thought process is, well, can we utilize this fencing on the permanent facility? And we think the answer to that would be yes. So we wouldn't just be out that money this way. But we're trying to get it together just as fast as we can. Greg Springman is working on an outline with a budget, so we know exactly what steps we need to do, and we're trying to get going just as fast as we can. We want to try and get them in there. We want some gravel so that it drains well. We don't want people in the mud. We're talking about bringing the platforms that were built by the Rotary Club over to this position to get them up off the ground. And we're still working with FAC on finalizing some of the policies, procedures, and then the community board of 7 people that would help to regulate the policies for the facility. So lots of things moving, trying to get them done as fast as we can. And but I can't give you a move-in date at this point in time. We're just not quite there yet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a question. So is the property you're talking about, is that the property on 24th?
So
to the east of the road, or is it where the blacktop is to the west?
Neither. It's literally would be the northernmost area already inside the Public Works fenced area. So we would take vehicles that are stored there and store them at another location and run a fence line across the northern tip, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, one last thing. Unfortunately, I apologize. I wasn't here at the last meeting. I was ill. So I didn't get the opportunity to rub in my Cougar victory over the Beaver football team. So
you're out of order.
You know what? You get an evaluation.
I couldn't miss that chance. I'm sorry.
There's not a lot of places for zeros, but I'll make some.
Thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah. Thanks, Ray.
So, Mr. Mayor, at least we didn't have to look at the red shirt.
I actually have a blazer.
That is a great point.
I have a blazer that I was going to wear.
Let's see, what is their record right now? Let's see, let me think about that a minute. Are they at the bottom of the North? I think they are.
But we beat the Beavers.
But then you got lost twice. Never mind, that's enough of that stuff.
Thank you, Ray.
You bet.
Department Directors reports. Anything you want to add, Brendan?
Not specifically, unless the council has any questions from my report.
Any questions of the council, of the directors? Okay, City Attorney, anything? Okay, Council Business Good of Order, anything? If not, we will adjourn at 7:50.